Um, okay, all right. Radhe Radhe and welcome everybody to Monday's segment of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. So our regular postman Nitinji is traveling today, and that's why we'll do the spiritual cash-up segment today instead of our regular Gita shlok. But as always, let's start with our opening prayer. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurudevo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Vasudeva Sutam Devam, Kamsa Chanuramardhanam, Devaki Paramanandam, Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. So Radhe Radhe and welcome everyone once again. If you weren't here just a minute ago, Nitinji is traveling today, so we'll not do a regular Gita shlok, but instead we'll dive into spiritual kasha, which we usually do on Wednesdays, but we'll use this whole session to do that today. And just a request, if you have any questions or comments during the discussion, please hold on to them, take a note of them. I'll leave some time at the end, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, where we can take some questions. So let's dive in. So I thought long and hard about what to put on this title slide, because we usually start with a little something. So I wanted to find an idea that was a good one to introduce the topic today, right? But try as I might, I just couldn't think of anything. Nothing came to mind. So after trying for a long, long time, I said to myself, I give up, which means I surrendered. And that's how I finally made progress. So that's a little joke, because although surrender does mean giving up, this is not what it means on our spiritual journey. And we'll talk about why and how, which introduces us to today's topic, spiritual gati with Sharanagati. So for Michelle, Radhe Radhe, and our friends who don't do Hindi, gati means momentum, and Sharanagati means surrender. So what we're saying is, as we continue to surrender, we start making more and more spiritual progress. And that's what we'll talk about today. So this is, we continue on with our ERS chapter of surrender. Today is episode 3. All right, so to recap and ruminate on what we talked about last week. We looked at all these different nuggets of surrender wisdom that Maharaji has collected from several different scriptures, right? All these verses seem to point to the one same thing. They all say, first of all, surrender to the Supreme Lord, surrender to God. And they not only say surrender, they say complete surrender. Surrender completely unto me. So they're talking about 100% surrender, right? So our takeaway from last week was, the moment we achieve this 100% surrender, that's when we get ultimate grace and divine bliss. And then we had a few questions based on that comment, because we thought, what does this 100% surrender really mean? And does it not mean you have graces that come to you during that process? Because it takes a while to achieve that 100% surrender. And what are you doing in the meantime? What are we doing with the graces in the meantime? So I thought, why not focus just on that part today? And there's a lot of ground to cover just with that topic. So get ready for some theatricals. We'll talk about 100% surrender and how that's the point of no return. So all of you must have, dabbled in fireworks as part of Diwali or any other like July 4th fireworks or what have you. If you've ever lit a firecracker rocket, you know that there's a little string that hangs out of it. And then you light the string and the spark travels up the string until it hits the powder inside the rocket, and that's how you get the firecrackers to light up, right? It takes a bit of time for that spark to reach from the point of the string where you first lit it to the point where it touches the powder. You see where I'm going with this? So what I mean is we've lit the rocket. Here's the spark. Let's see what happens. All right. So where I was going with that is we have this rocket. This is our point where we've started this process of surrender, right? That's why we're all here. We're learning about divine teachings, we're learning how to apply them. And our goal is to get to this point where the spark touches that 100% surrender level. And that's when we can finally take off to that point of no return. And so today we're only going to focus on this area. How do you get from wherever we are in our journey of surrender to that 100% surrender? And Maharaji has actually laid out an excellent map of how to get from this point to that point. And we'll talk about surrender in relation to Guru's grace today, because they are highly interconnected. So what Maharaji says is God and Guru are called Akaran Karun. Akaran means causeless. Actually, Karan means cause. Akaran is an opposite of cause. So Akaran means causeless. There's no cause. And Karun means grace. And why are God and Guru called Akaran Karun? Because they bestow grace on us without asking for anything in return. There's nothing we have that we can possibly give them because we are in the material realm. They are in the divine realm. There's nothing we can offer them in return for anything that they bestow upon us. So really, they have no reason to give us anything, yet they do. And that is why it's called causeless mercy or causeless grace. Maharaji says the world is not Akaran Karun. It is Sakaran Karun, which means with reason. What that means is everything is transactional. We don't do anything for each other without any expectation of something in return. No matter how much we think it is, it isn't. Because at the end of it, if you're doing something for someone because it makes you happy, you're still doing it for your own happiness. That's where this is going. So this Akaran Karun cannot be done by Maya Bhattiji, which is worldly people like us, because we have not attained divine bliss. Everyone is in search of that divine bliss, but until we find it, we're going to keep doing things that are in our self-interest that gives us that self-pleasure or self-enjoyment, even if it is altruistic in nature. So without this divine bliss that all of us are searching for, it is impossible for us to think about anything other than our own happiness, is what Maharaji said. And if we really think about this, it starts to make sense. So if you think about examples, try to think back to a point when you were so hungry or so sleepy, and there are base needs, right? They're basic necessities. If you get to an extreme point of hunger or sleep, you can't think of anything other than just, I just want to eat something, or I just want to take a nap. Until you satiate that base need, you cannot think of anything else. So that's what we're doing in the long run. We're trying to fulfill our own happiness until we get to that point of divine bliss. And until we get there, it's not possible for us to do causeless transactions with each other. He also says that God and Guru are in eternal bliss already. So they don't need to do anything at all. They don't need anything from us. They don't actually need to even make their presence felt to worldly people. So if you think about, in terms of the world, if you think about millionaires or billionaires, you rarely see them associate with, say, slum dwellers or people who are not as privileged, because they don't need to. Their circle is different, their world is different. So if you find such a person with a person that's lesser privileged, it's probably because they feel some compassion. They want to give them something. So this is just a worldly parallel we can draw to God and Guru who don't need anything from the world, but are there to help them. So what we're saying is if they do that, if they make some type of interaction, God and Guru interact in some way with people of the world, Jeeves like us, then that is causeless bliss because they really don't need. So what we find is grace is directly proportional to surrender, and we'll see how that works. But we'll look at this interrelationship in more detail. And like I already mentioned, Maharaji has really laid this out in a very, very systematic manner. So let's talk about the first causeless bliss. When a guru or a Mahapurush makes their presence felt or appears in our life, that itself is a causeless bliss. So think back to when there wasn't a point in your life, when there was a point in your life when there wasn't a guru available to impart teachings or to provide clarity. It may seem like we're groping in the dark, we're trying to speak as much as we can on our own, and then think back to whether things changed after a guru appeared. And what do we mean by guru appeared? It could be anything in this day and age. It could be something you find on your YouTube feed, or you could find an actual guru. So it could work in any way. But in some shape or form or manner, the guru makes their presence felt or appears in your life. That itself is the first causeless bliss. And it's causeless because we haven't done anything to get it. So Guru gives the blessing of appearing in the Jeev's life. So that is what happens right in the beginning. Then what happens is if we recognize the value of this, if we acknowledge this immense blessing, and if we understand it, if we appreciate it, and we are grateful for the value of it, then we proceed to the next step, which is Guru accepts this gratitude. If the Guru sees that we genuinely mean this gratitude and we genuinely appreciate the value of this, then they accept this gratitude. And when that happens, when Guru is acknowledged or accepted that gratitude, then we really start to reap benefits of that grace, of having the Guru there. So think of someone that finds a ring on the street and they don't know that it is, a real diamond. If they don't know it, they won't understand the value and they might just toss it. Or think back to a piece of paper on which you wrote someone's number or something important, a password, something. You know that it has value, but if someone finds that piece of paper, they might just think it's a scrap and they might throw it. So value is different to different people. And what Maharaj is saying is when a guru appears in your life, have faith and show that gratitude and trust that this is a very valuable blessing that's just emerged in your life. So what are the benefits of this first causeless grace? Just this darshan. So darshan is the appearance, right? It's that just that darshan is a big blessing. At this point, we have seen the Guru. We have darshan of the Guru. The Guru doesn't have darshan of us at this point. But even then, that's enough of a blessing we should be grateful for. Because they have allowed us to see the Guru. Our scriptures tell us just this much is enough to destroy some of our bad karmas from the past. Just this is enough. Just to have the Guru. He says it also proves that we have done some good karmas in our past life. This is very important, and he stresses this a lot. This cannot be obtained by any resource. You can't pay money for it. You can't do any kind of, you cannot do any kind of action for it. It has to be given as a causeless grace, this darshan of the Guru. But what it does prove is we come with some sanskars, we come with some karma. So that's a nice encouraging message for all of us here. And he says it also foretells good fortune in the future because they took away some of our bad karmas, which means it reduces our bad propensities for making bad decisions, puts us on a better track already. So these are some of the benefits from the first causeless grace. And then he also serves up a warning here. let's say a jeev, which is individual souls, says that the guru interacted with me, blessed me, but I had no benefit coming out of this. It is because the jeev has not understood the value of this grace internally, or they've not realized what can come out of it, or they don't truly feel it from within, just how big of a thing they received. So it's like the person who doesn't understand this is a real diamond. So this is the first causeless grace, just the appearance of guru in our life. Moving on. Oh, sorry, one more warning. One of the worst things we can do, Maharaji says, is to use our human intellect, which is under the sway of Maya, to understand God or Guru. So he says all the logic that we have in our mind and intellect, it will work in the material world because the intellect is all for material. That logic we cannot apply to divine things, and God and Guru fall under that category. So if we try to do that, that's one of the worst things we can do, especially because what it means to surrender is to give that mind and intellect to God and Guru. That's what we actually surrender. So that's why it's one of the worst things to use it to understand God and Guru. So moving on to the second causeless grace. When Guru allows and enables the comprehension of Tattva Gyan or divine knowledge by providing clarity and guidance. So he says, up until now, you might have read or attempted reading scriptures. You might have read the Bhagavad Gita before or something else. But you are kind of groping in the dark. Yesterday, we saw some examples of contradictions from scriptures, right? For example, we talked about contradiction in surrender. We said last week, become totally dependent on God, like a little baby that cannot do anything for its own. But then we also said, does that mean I just stop doing everything and expect God to do everything for me? But that is inaction, and it is strongly condemned in the Bhagavad Gita. So these are two contradictory statements. And in and of itself, if we just read it on our own, we may not be able to make sense of it, or we may draw a misinterpretation out of it. But when the Guru comes, it's almost like he lifts a curtain and allows you to see the Tattva Gyan, allows you to absorb the Tattva Gyan. So he says, if you're struggling in the beginning to imbibe this scriptural knowledge, because you cannot imbibe it and absorb it, you don't know how to make decisions or how to apply it to our practical life, because it's causing us confusion. And without applying the Tattva Gyan, we're not going to see much changes in our life or any spiritual progress to speak of. So the Guru enables the comprehension of this divine knowledge. He allows you to see it. And this way we can start applying that Tattva Gyan in our everyday life. So what are the benefits of this second causeless grace? First of all, it enables the understanding of scriptural knowledge. With the stuff that might have just been words in the beginning, now start to feel like experiences. You start to realize what that really means. He provides clarification regarding seemingly contradictory statements in these scriptures. And with this impediment removed and our confusion removed, we can start applying these teachings in our practical life. And as we apply these teachings, as we saw in our previous segments of grace and surrender, the more you utilize grace, the more grace you're going to get. So as we apply these teachings, that means this is the grace we have received, and now we're doing something with the grace that we have. And that's going to start that chain of grace reactions, and we're going to get more grace from God and you. Again, he serves up a warning on this causeless grace. He says, the amount of benefit we receive from the second causeless grace, it depends on the kind of spiritual vessel we are. Now, what do we mean by spiritual vessel? So let's look at that for a second. So first of all, he says, once the Guru has appeared, that was our first causeless grace. And he now enabled the Tattva Gyan to be absorbed and understood. That's our second causeless grace. He says, my job is done for now. My duty is over for now. This is where the ball is in your court. What are you going to do with the two graces that I've already given to you? And then he also tells us what to do with the two graces he's given to us. He says our job is now to repeatedly contemplate this tattva, to solidify it in our intellect. This is the punarvritti. The more we think about something, the more it's going to get solidified, the more we're going to be able to recall it when we need it the most. And then he says, start to apply this tattva in your practical life. These are the two things he wants us to do after he bestowed the two graces on us. So he gives a great example and an analogy to explain how this self-effort is going to define the type of spiritual vessel we can become. And the type of spiritual vessel we become directly relates to what kind of spiritual progress we're going to see on our journey. So let's say a guru has bestowed the exact same amount of grace on three different sadhaks. Did he have a scale to weigh this on? I do not know. But it's the same amount of grace. That's the premise of this example. Let's say the first sadhak, who's a practitioner, didn't apply or realize this grace at all, did not see the value in it, does not understand it for what a blessing it is. And so he's still sitting on top of his worldly ambitions and material way of life. Let's say the second sadhak applied the grace to a certain extent. So he's still involved in his material way of thinking, but he has started to adopt devotion and bhakti in some parts of his life, right? And then let's say the third practitioner took it fully to heart. And although, he's probably practicing it like karma, he's doing his things like he normally does, but he's offering up everything to God and doing his sadhana and applying whatever the guru's teachings are to his fullest extent. What do we think the results or the outcomes are going to be? We just said, just having the grace is not enough. It's up to us how much we utilize it. And that sparks that chain of grace reaction to getting more grace and more devotion, more bhakti. So it's obvious that these three people are not going to see the same spiritual progress outcome in their life. So what we're saying is, although the same amount of grace was bestowed on these different types of sadhaks, they're going to have very different outcomes because of their extent of application. And for this, he gives a really lovely analogy. So he says, let's say there's an iron wok that's hot, right? If you pour water on it, it's going to sizzle and evaporate. You hear that sound when you're cooking, right? So he says, water poured on a hot iron wok, it will sizzle and evaporate. But that same water, if you pour it on a lotus leaf, it sparkles like a diamond. It's the same water, the spiritual vessel is different. And that's how you see different outcomes. So that is the self-effort Maharaji is asking us to put in after he's given us the first two causeless graces. Now moving on to the third causeless grace. He says, when we embark on the path to surrender, the Guru guides, warns, and monitors our progress. How awesome is that? So let's say we start working on our sadhana. Now the Guru considers it his duty to keep an eye on us as sadhaks. And he's going to find ways to guide us, to clarify difficulties, and to monitor our progress. He's also going to warn us of potential pitfalls. So let's look at the benefits of the third causeless grace. We are now on the Guru's radar. We're not going to escape. What we're doing on our spiritual journey. Can't hide anymore. Depending on our level of surrender, the Guru can bestow additional graces, he says. Some of them are secret. We won't even know what comes to us. It all depends on our level of surrender. So these are some additional carrots we can't even think about. Again, he serves up warnings for this causeless grace. As we continue on the path to surrender, he says, be wary of making mistakes to avoid incurring deficits or taking steps backwards. It's like earning $50 and spending $50, $20, and then you earn some more and you spend some more. So your net outcome is going to depend on how much of this are you saving. And then the second warning is what we talked about yesterday, the window mirror opposing principles. We attribute spiritual progression to God and Guru. Anything good that happens to us that makes us take steps forward in our spiritual journey, we attribute to the graces of God and Guru. That's because our human intellect cannot comprehend divine teachings on its own. And then when we make mistakes or we make spiritual regression, we attribute that to ourselves because we know we have limitations. And then he says this goes a long way into not letting your ego get inflated. Because when ego comes in, humility goes out. And when humility goes out, bhakti reduces. And when bhakti reduces, it gives way to my qualities like anger, greed, envy, all of that. So all of that will increase. So this was a look at the third causeless grace. And this is all on our path to surrender. And then we come to this ultimate causeless grace, right? The tip of the rocket string that touches the powder, that is this point. So this is a very special grace, and that comes only at the end. And so last week, when we talked about that 100% surrender and we said, it's all or nothing, this is that point. So when the sadhak achieves 100% surrender, there is a special ultimate grace. And without this particular kripa, attaining God and divine bliss is impossible. Even if you've come to the 99.99%, you need this last one thing to get across the finish line. So Maharaji says, when the jeev continues sadhana and practical application of Guru's teachings and divine knowledge, and we continue making progress on that path to surrender, then we succeed in 100% surrender of mind and intellect to God and Guru. At some point, we will. That's when he bestows that ultimate grace of divine bliss. So beyond the obvious, the other benefits of this ultimate causeless grace. Remember the suitcases with the sanchit karma from all our infinite lifetimes, bags and bags and bags of karma. All of those will be nullified in a jiffy once we cross that finish line. So no more karma to incur or consequences to suffer. All the effects of Maya are nullified. We are individual souls under the sway of Maya. Now we get beyond Maya, and that can no longer touch us. Any my qualities are nullified. Any of the greed, anger, envy we had is no more. And we've attained divine bliss for eternity and at the point of no return. So there's no coming back. So again, he warns, achieving 100% surrender is impossible without the complete surrender of our mind and intellect. Really, this is what they want. They're not interested in the body or anything else. All they want is our mind and intellect surrender to God and Guru. Even if we continue down the path of surrender diligently, he says one lifetime is enough for attaining divine bliss. You don't even have to go on longer. And to illustrate this point, he has a really sweet story of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and a doubting man. So one day, a very analytical and doubt-filled man came to Gauranga Mahaprabhu and he said, I've read a lot about you, but I overanalyze. So I was never able to surrender to you fully. Sometimes I think you're a very special person. You're a Mahapurush. Definitely you must be a Mahapurush and a Guru. But then I'll think of something else and I feel like, yes, you're a special person, but you cannot be a Mahapurush, really. So I fluctuate between seeing you as this Guru and not seeing you as this Guru. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu told him, it's not impossible for you to make spiritual progress with your state of mind, but it's going to take you a long time. So the man asked him, how many lifetimes do you think it would take? And so there was a people tree, people not as in folks, it's type of leaf. Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, he looked at the tree and he said, it will take you as many lifetimes as there are leaves on that tree. Because it will take you a long time to get all of your doubts to be resolved. You have so many questions. So lifetime after lifetime, you keep resolving some of those curiosities and questions, and that way it'll take you this much time. So it's not that he had counted the leaves or he had any specific sense of time, but he just gave him a generic answer. But for some reason, this man was so happy to know, because there's finite leaves on the tree. So he was very happy to think that at least there's light at the end of the tunnel and it's going to be finite lifetimes. And he believed in this statement. And so as soon as Gauranga Mahaprabhu saw that he put faith in his statement, he immediately changed his assessment. And he said, actually, your spiritual progress will happen in this very lifetime. So imagine a tree full of leaves, how many is that? Versus just the one lifetime. So a doubtful person would have thought, what kind of guru is this? He just told me a few seconds ago it's going to take me all these hundreds of lifetimes, and now he's telling me it's this very lifetime. What should I believe? But for some reason, again, this man was so happy and he put his faith in his words, and Gauranga Mahaprabhu saw that. And again, he changed his assessment. And at this point, Maharaji says, God and Guru are not interested in our past record. This is such an important point to note. Whatever we have done before, how much ever we have not surrendered or surrendered before, they are not interested in it. They are just interested in what current level are you in. And so when Mahaprabhu saw that his current level of surrender had increased, he gave him more hope. He said, actually, your spiritual progress will happen today. And when the man heard this, he just started to fall down in ecstasy. When Mahaprabhu said, oh, just come here, I'll do your progress right away. Here, go, it's done. So what the takeaway from this is, it was not a different Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Each time it's the same person who's changing assessment. And it's not a different man that's come in, that's putting different levels of faith, right? It's the same man, but he's slowly increasing his levels of faith in Guru. And that's why Maharaji says, the moment the man was able to strengthen his faith and surrender fully, that's when he was able to receive that causeless grace. So that's the takeaway from this story. Let's try to summarize what we saw so far in terms of Guru's grace and surrender. So we said the first causeless grace, there's no reason for this, except that we must have done some good karmas in the past. For no reason, the Guru appears. What that means is he just shows up in our life in some shape or form or manner. After that, what is our self-effort? Once we have received that first causeless grace, we have to show gratitude for that blessing, and we have to really internally realize the value of that blessing. That's when the Guru will give us that second causeless grace, allowing. What does he allow? It allows and enables the comprehension of spiritual and divine knowledge. That is not enough. We have our own part to play. So the self-effort is contemplating that Tattva and applying it to practical life. At this point, when we've done enough of it, we'll receive the third causeless grace, which is he adopts what? Us. He adopts us, he monitors our progress, he guides us, he warns us. At this point, again, we have our part to play. So our self-effort involves intentionally, consciously trying to avoid mistakes, to avoid that spiritual regression, and to consciously try to become a better spiritual vessel. Now, there is more self-effort to come before we reach that final point. It says, continue on your path of spiritual surrender diligently. Surrender your mind and intellect completely. And when we reach that final point, that's when he gives us the ultimate causeless grace, which is a word. That's divine bliss. So let's look at a summary of the summary. It's a cheat sheet. So what the Guru does is appears in our life. He allows understanding Tattva. He adopts us and monitors progress. And he awards the attainment of divine bliss. So that was our summary for today. Like I said, Maharaji has really laid out a fantastic plan and systematic way of how grace is bestowed. And if we keep these stair steps in mind, and if we make it a point to make this self-effort a way of life, I don't see why we cannot make spiritual growth. So applied knowledge is power. This whole thing makes me think that surrender is like a game of snakes and ladders, right? You guys have all played shoots and ladders, snakes and ladders. Ladders elevate us, take us to a high level from where we are, and snakes are slithery, they're slippery, we fall from where we are. So let's look at what constitutes ladders on our surrender journey. It is demonstrating that gratitude, attitude of gratitude. It is contemplation of the divine knowledge to solidify it in our minds and intellect. And it's the application of Guru's teaching in our practical life. Those can be our main ladders. And what can be snakes on our path to surrender? It can be our ego. That's always our downfall. It can be trying to apply human intellect to understand God and people. That logic doesn't work there. And it can be decisions against Guru's teachings. We know it, but we don't follow it. Then I will just leave you with this one thought. Remember the rocket, right? In the beginning of the segment. So we said, this might be where we are in our surrender journey today, this part. And this is where we want to get to. Once we get there, once we put in our self-effort on this journey and we get bestowed that base, then it's ready, set, go. All right, with that, we come to the end of our segment for today. And he is here, so we can go to questions and comments. As always, thank you for your patience and attention. Radha.
Awesome, Cash. That was fantastic. I was following up. So it was like each nugget that was presented was like it's like treasure chest that you opened up. I mean, so beautifully that whole framework that you have presented. I think there's nothing better, and we all can see how this journey is supposed to unfold and how far basically we are in that trajectory, especially if we have met a guru. Right? I think this concept itself of meeting a guru itself is a big grace. Right? If that gets facilitated. Now, if we could have his darshan, even if it's from a distance, that itself is a big grace. Now, if the guru looks back at you, even bigger grace. Now, if guru, you get involved in seva of guru directly or indirectly, even bigger grace. Now, if guru calls you and chides you, berates you, scolds you, even bigger grace. So those levels can keep on increasing on this path because, like you said, when guru starts correcting you, in fact, when he starts chiding you, that is when you are truly well and truly underway. So very nicely presented. I think it simplifies this whole thing for you. And I think Maharaji's lecture on Guru Kripa, any one of you is interested, go check it out. But I think this is the first attempt at actually putting it in this kind of an illustration. So kudos to you, Cash, for doing that and simplifying it so much and presenting it. It's so simplifying it and so nicely for the benefit of all. So let's hear from others as well, and then we can continue on this topic. It's a beautiful topic, and I think Cash is all eagers to take all the questions that will come from here on. And I may have a few questions as well. Okay, for you. You are the star of the show, but thank you for taking the session. I was not sure I'll be able to make it in time. Luckily, I was able to. So let's open it up to hear questions from others as well.
Go ahead, Ramya ji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. No questions, but just thank you. And finding Nitinji was the first grace. Continuing to attend this and all is the second, and Catchy is like cherry on top. So I mean, I literally after some point started taking it for granted. This became like a norm or routine for me, where I was just listening and not contemplating. I mean, the knowledge was slipping out of my mind, and this literally struck as a reminder as to how lucky I am. So thanks a lot for reminding me. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you so much, Ramya ji. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Shri Ramya. By the way, one question that has come from, so now the question is, I haven't met my guru. So have I still been able to build a connect with them? The answer for that is Maharaj Ji has given that answer very clearly. Okay, you can ask Swamiji as well. If you have some kind of a connect or a pull towards a personality whom you have enough reason to believe is a saintly personality or a guru, even if you have not met them, you simply accept them in your heart. That is good enough. Okay, this diksha and meeting in person and that hand sitting on your head, all that concept does not count here. In fact, Maharaji used to say, and it has happened in practical, I'm telling you, even if you have listened to his lecture, one lecture with faith, reverence, and open mind, he will accept you. And when he accepts you, there have been a lot of Westerners, I'm telling you this example, they have attended his lectures which are in Hindi and Hindi also mixed with Awadhi. And for some reason, they will get the import of it, which goes to the second step that Cash had called out. They will make sure the scriptural knowledge starts getting implanted in you. So language is not a barrier, physical distance is not a barrier, meeting in person is not a barrier, nothing whatsoever. All you have to do is accept them and start aligning to their teaching, and guru disciple relationship is established at that point. That is how beautiful this relationship. It doesn't matter like the worldly thing, you have to meet and there is some formal ceremony that has to take place, nothing of that sort here. Thank you, Abaji, for asking that question.
There is a question in the chat window. How do we find our guru? Who is our guru, Maharaji or Swami Mukundananda?
So Maharaj Swamiji has always said, because it is by design, we have been introduced to Maharajji through him. Swamiji in SMX has answered this question. You can consider him as your guru, especially if you have met him to begin with, and Maharajji as the Param Guru. Okay, so either one, both of them, does not matter. Okay, that connection is established, the teachings are same, and it is by design if it is happening that way. So it doesn't matter. It's a good problem to have in your head, I would say. But you can ask this question in person to him as well when you meet him. Good question, nevertheless.
Thank you, Nitinji. Go ahead.
And how do we find a guru? See, this could be a topic in itself. How do we find our guru, right? Now, it is said that meeting a guru, see, if you are drowning in a vast ocean, let's say you are stuck in an ocean, Bhavasagar, anyway, we are in a Bhavasagar, right? This is also a material ocean that we are in. But let's say a real ocean, if you are stuck and you are just, loitering around in the water. So odds of finding a log or a tinka, they say doobte ko tinke ka sahara, finding a log to hang on to in a vast ocean, that odds are much higher than finding a guru. Okay, so it doesn't work so easily. Having said that, sometimes kripa happens. Sometimes you might have had enough sanchit karma because of which you warrant meeting a saintly personality in some form or manner at some point in your life. That can happen. And if it happens, that's the biggest blessing, grace of God in your life at that point. Make the most of it. And once that relationship is established, it is permanent, it is perpetual. Guru will not leave you until he makes you cross over the material ocean. So this is how this, what will happen is, even if you don't repeat during their avatar kal, let's say they have themselves manifested, like Maharajji happened, they will arrange for somebody who will become a conduit so that you get the same message and that connection is established, in some form or manner. So that is how this process is facilitated. Sometimes you may repeat during their avatar call, sometimes you may not. But when you don't, they will send somebody your way so that message and that connection gets established and your journey continues. So it's a what do you call that, a very beautiful relationship that you establish, and physical proximity or having that association like we have in material world is not necessary at that point. And guru can do yogaksham, like we spoke about the knowledge part of it, which gets cleared in your head, the scriptural knowledge that can be done remotely. They have the power to do it remotely. They don't have to be in person with you or to look at you or to be in their presence, right? So they can do it remotely. Yogakshema Vyamyaham, which Lord Krishna is also talking about in Bhagavad Gita, I think in 9:11, that can happen remotely. Guru can do all that stuff remotely. He can also protect you. He can also be witness. He's your witness as well. And he's also serving you remotely. How is he serving you? He's serving you by removing the impediments on the path of your spirituality. They even fight your bad sanskars when they know you are sincerely putting in effort to progress spiritually. When your bad sanskars come, they fight with that also. All that stuff they can do remotely. The final grace, which is Premdan, they do it in person. Now, if your guru is in Avatar Kal, they will facilitate that meeting. If they are not in Avatar Kal, then also they have the ability to manifest in front of you. And that final divine love that happens with the physical association. Okay, that could happen in any form. It could be a tap on your head, it could be a punch on your cheek, it could be a hug, it could be just a visual locking of eyes, it could be anything. That is a physical thing that happens face to face. But everything else, Guru can do it through remote control. Okay, that is how this works. Hope that answers your question.
Go ahead, Sandhya.
It's a very beautiful topic. So thank you for picking that up, Cash. I think it's a very, very nice topic. Yes, Sandhya, go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, a great session, great topic, as Nitinji just said. And Kashti, thank you for bringing all the, mechanics of how Guru's grace is bestowed upon us. Like, I think for me personally, those things got highlighted, which were somewhere hidden. And now I'm understanding, oh, this is what was happening from Guru's perspective. Like, we know our perspective, but the kind of efforts which are going on throughout the journey from their side, something we are sometimes just having a veil for, but this highlighted it very specifically, so thank you. And one thing I love this, appear, allow, adopt, and award, right? So adopt word here is like the sweetest. And when you just think about it, like the guru really adopts you. And like Nitinji also pointed out, and I think Swamiji had also said this, that guru literally वो युद्ध लड़ते हैं आपके संस्कारों के साथ. Like when he adopts you, he literally takes care of everything. So that's such a big blessing. So that all I wanted to point out. I had like some questions from my end as well as there are some in the chat. First I'll ask mine. So I think in the first part, the first causeless grace, you mentioned that when Guru accepts the gratitude that you have offered, that is when the next you kind of receive the grace, something like that, right? So how does one know that the gratitude has been accepted?
I think you'll know because you're doing what they're asking. Do you really feel it from within? Do you get that feeling of, do you feel overwhelmed? This is such a big thing and you feel like it's bringing you value. If you feel it, they're gonna feel it. That's my view. You can't lie to yourself, right? You may not feel that connect, you may not feel the blessing, but then you're not.
But
realize-
then, yeah, right. And I think at some point of time you mentioned that if someone is not feeling the connect, it could be because they haven't put enough effort to realize how important that grace is, right?
Are you still talking
Possibly.
about that? Or
Huh?
No, possibly. See, our conditioned state is there, right? Even extraordinary things seem ordinary to us.
Mm-hmm.
That is our regular conditioned state. How many times have we wondered, oh my God, sun is coming in the sky and the rays are coming and I'm getting. So beyond a point, even the extraordinary things may seem ordinary to us. And that's where knowledge comes in, where you think about it, how fortunate how many times do we wake up and have that sense of awe and wonder around our very existence itself. And on top of it, I've become a human. On top of it, I have this spark. On top of it, I've found a guru. How many times anybody would contemplate that, right? So that is where, if we do that, that draws more of it. Swamiji has said that when you have a sense of gratitude towards something, then you draw more of it. This is the rule. And then when you are genuinely doing it from the bottom of your heart, not just in, superficially, of course, you can't cheat God who's seated within. He's privy to your most deepest thoughts, and so is Guru, right? So that purity of, if you have it, like, Kash was saying, you can't lie to yourself. Of course, Guru would know that. He will know whether it's a 24 karat gold or, it is diluted one.
So we
And
don't have to worry about Guru accepting our gratitude. We should worry about us having the pure intent towards offering the gratitude, right? Okay.
True. You
And
need to have. And
um,
also, there's another aspect of it. See, Guru is like a philosopher's stone, and the contact is established, you'll turn to gold. But why is it? Is it the first time we are meeting a Guru? We probably met it before as well, right? So what happened? The contact never got established between us and the Guru. Why did not contact not? Either we did not have complete Sharanagati, so there was a packaging around us, there was a wrapper around us, right? That wrapper has to go away. It could be in form of not following the teachings, not aligning the process, putting a but, however, to everything or something, right? They say that kuch shraddha, kuch dushtata, kuch sanshay, kuch
yeah,
ज्ञान घर का रहा ना घाट का
जो
जीवन धोबी का स्वाद. The point is we have it, but we put our buddhi. It's like, okay, Guruji, listen to you, but a little bit of for us as well. So that perfect surrender has not happened. That wrapper is still there, and because of which that perfect contact has not gotten established. Because once it is established, then you have to turn into gold, right? Like you come in contact with the philosopher's stone. So that aspect is the lack on our side more than the power that Guru has to transform us.
So, another question, which is more applicable to the practical scenario. I mean, every individual who might appear as Guru may not be a real saint, right? And that's why um, one may not feel getting closer to God when they come in contact with such people, right? But now, how at the individual level one figures out whether it is lack of my efforts or whether the other person is not a real saint.
See, this is how I think I've spoken about this topic of how do we find a perfect guru, right? So that could be a topic or discussion in itself. But what do you have control over in this whole process?
Your intent.
Intent. What dictates your intention? Based on what is your intention? Okay, my intention is to get a big house. My intention is to get a play with my grandkid or have my kid get married. My intention is to get the next promotion. That intention is driven by your value system or the belief system that you carry. That belief system or value system is dictated by the knowledge that is activated in your intellect, which is important thing in life. And that knowledge, once it is not erroneous, it is perfectly directed coming in from scriptures, or you have done that. Even if you have not gotten access to scriptures, not everybody reads that, right? But when you truly understand and you are asking God for God, then he will, because he's seated within, right? He understands your intention and your motives behind anything. He will lead you to a proper guru. But if you're approaching it with some material intentions in mind, he'll lead you to a counterfeit currency who's going to tell you, hey, listen to my discourse and Swarg is waiting for you. Red carpet will be rolled out, or this will happen, that will happen. Now, Swamiji answered this question very nicely. So you go to some Guruji who gives you material boons. Okay, ask Guruji, why are you giving me material boons? If you could do that, why didn't you do it on your own side? You have rejected material things. Then why are you giving it to me? Right? The Guruji will say, I rejected it because it is poison. I've understood. So if it is poison, why are you giving it to me? So a true Guru would be interested in your spiritual welfare. And a fake Guru might be interested in your material advancement for their own sake. So that is a good yardstick. Typically, they will not engage you at a material level. But at the same time, only thing you have control over is your intention. Why am I seeking a Guru? Right? I'm seeking Guru so that I can get closer to God. And if that is your intention, that knowledge somehow is stuck here, you will be led to a proper person only. Why would God cheat you in that case, right? But if not, if your intention itself is khota or corrupt, diluted, then there are tons of people who are out there to swindle you and cash on your emotions and things that you think are important and you can get by doing so. So that's how it typically goes. So it says there's a Maharajji's bhajan is there, and गुरु की कृपा से मिले नहीं, हरि की कृपा
Hari
से
ki
मिले
kripa se
गुरुवर
milegi.
प्यारे, and Guru की कृपा से मिले गिरिधर प्यारे. So this is how it works. And Guru's
Awesome.
pedestal is even higher than Hari because God is very perfectionist. He says, I need a clean antakaran, nothing less than that. Now, who's going to clean it up? The dhobi, the person who's to do laundry is the Guru, right? He has to work on you. He'll clean it up. And when it is cleaned up, God said, all right, in for the picking. So the hard work is done by Guru. That is why Guru's stature is even higher than that of a God. So
Awesome. There is one question from Priya ji. Is it possible to have more than one guru in our spiritual journey?
it is quite possible. Maharaj has answered this question very categorically and very clearly. What he has said is that if, let's say, for example, you have been, let's say, following a teaching of somebody, and now you feel that two reasons. Either you have reached a saturation point because it's not giving you, quenching your thirst beyond a point. That is one. Second is you feel that, you know what, they're not engaging me spiritually. It's like all of a sudden you have an awakening and understanding that, okay, this is not working out for me. This is not giving me spiritual benefit that I was expecting. Then what do you do? So if you go to a doctor, let's say the doctor is not curing your ailment, you say, whatever it is, I am stuck with this doctor. You don't say that, you change the doctor. But the precondition is you don't have durbhavana or bad feeling about the previous guru. You simply become neutral and then move on. Because it's equally your fault too. If you fell for a con man, then it's your fault too. Maybe your intention was corrupted, you know. So you don't do that. It's not like you start blaming them and, you know, saying bad things about them. You become neutral and simply move on. So yes, our scriptures has no nishad about changing gurus as long as you don't have a negative feeling about the previous one. And even if there is a Mahapurush and it's not benefiting you spiritually, still you can do that, provided you have become neutral to that and move on, because end of the day, your journey is a personal thing. You might be seeking Brajaras and you are getting, you know, at probably a ras that is not quenching your thirst. That is possible. People, they are born in one tradition and they find that, you know, some of their questions are still not getting answered. So then they, of course, they find the right well that quenches their thirst. So what is it? God is not saying once you're stuck forever. It has given you the provision with the understanding that, with an expectation that you don't have bad feelings about the previous guru, no matter who it is. You simply move on, become neutral and move on.
And just last comment from Mahesh Talreja ji. One takeaway is that we can't contemplate with our intellect. That would be first surrender.
True. So Guru's word, see, buddhi in case of Guru's vakya is something which has been the cause of our downfall, lifetime after lifetime. We agree, but then we put a but, lekin, however, for something. And that is where Guru's word, if you have reason to believe Guru's proper Guru, Shrotri and Brahmanish, then his word is the final word. No buddhi, no scope for our own buddhi, kintu parantu at that point. Difficult, but that is how it's meant to be. See, couple of other hands.
Go ahead, Samranji. Thank you for waiting.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji. I had two questions. First was that, as you said that Guru's grace and Guru's vision is always upon us, on the G. So with this material kind of intellect, how do we get that drishti in our mind that yes, Guru is watching me, and to always hold on to that thought that Guru is always there with me.
Practice.
And the second question is, suppose in this material world, a person who is like Sharnagat or has a divine understanding or want to progress in spiritual life, but suppose he gets stuck with a surrounding, like just common example is like someone gets married to a family where people are not very spiritually aligned, and how in that sense the particular individual like not let the other people influence them. Like most of the people get these kind of problems in common life, right? So वैसे सिचुएशन में कैसे अपने आप को सेव करेंगे?
First, I think there are two parts to this question. First, you said, how do we, you know, build this consciousness that Guru is watching us, right? So like any other thing, it's practice and contemplation. There's no magic wand around it, right? You have to practice this. Repeat it enough in your head on the vakyas of our scriptures, the statement that our scriptures make, this is actually happening. And then I think with Guru's grace, certain experiences would tell you that, you know, they are watching, they're sending me the messages that I need. That actually this happened, even though I have no reason to explain why this happened, right? And so your own realizations will start strengthening that belief with Guru's grace. That is one part of it. Second is the family situation, right? It's a very common problem, right? It can happen. So let's understand that is also something. We are the authors of our destiny. Bhagavan Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita that, if you make spirituality your priority, I will make sure you are born in a family situation, circumstance, so that you can carry on this journey early on in life. Now, for some reason, let's say we don't have a conducive environment, that still doesn't stop us from doing our spiritual practice, right? That is where Bhagavan has given us buddhi. So we become, neutral towards, maybe it's a test God has, and then God, when He gives us prarabdha or family situations, that is also given as a test to us. So look at it, what is it that you can learn out of that situation, as opposed to making it as an excuse that this has derailed my spiritual journey. In fact, it's a bigger opportunity for you. Let's say somebody has hung up with day-to-day stuff, and he has to do so many things for his family, people around, as part of his day-to-day stuff. Then whatever time he gets, the percentage of time, if he devotes in God, or if even if they are thinking about God inside, right? It's an internal matter. World does not need your mind. They need your work. Does somebody come and say, I need your mind? Mind you can still keep in God, right? So that practice can be strengthened. It's an opportunity even to practice it then. But it's easy for our mind to say, you know what, I don't have supporting circumstances, situations. So how do I practice devotion? There are tons of example, even in material world, where people, although they have been born in downtrodden families, drug addicts and stuff like that, and they have gone on to do excellent, excel really well in their lives. They make the most of the opportunity that they got. So whatever situation we are hurled at, let's accept it as a prasad buddhi and see how we can dovetail or catapult or utilize that opportunity to catapult our spiritual growth. We have to make it. We cannot complain about it that, okay, I'm stuck and what's going on. And there's a reason why those people have come in your life. Maybe that is a test we need. Maybe we need to increase our tolerance. Maybe we need to understand letting go of it and then utilize situations for your internal growth. But your spirituality or your that growth, of course, conducive circumstances help. Maybe if you do it hard enough, long enough in this life, next life it will be much more favorable. But we are wherever we are. We have to make most of it, and accept whatever those situations come, and then with proper knowledge, utilize those opportunities for our spiritual growth as best as we can.
And just extended question to that. In that sense, if like we are trying to keep ourselves very spiritually aligned and the thoughts with the Guru and Hari, but given the situation where surrounded people are there, they might be a bhokta kind of mindset person, right? They can feel a need, a selfish need from our like sensory gratification or anything else. So in that sense, what our current state of mind should be like?
Let's talk about if there's a particular example around it, but this is how we have to, right? That lotus flower example that we spoke about, it grows in mud. When your priorities are set, you use our buddhi to balance things out around it, right? And spirituality is not something you wear on your sleeve, that you pick up, confrontations or conflicts with people around. And if you are stuck with people who give material things a lot of priority, still they don't have access to what is going on inside you, right? You can still practice your spirituality silently. You can still get your me time, and you can still balance it out with them without getting truly involved, right? I mean, unless they're asking you give us your mind and we have a full right to your every thought in life, that does rarely happens in life. You'll still have your own time, right? So make the most of it, in the situation that you're in, and see how best you can navigate through your situation. We can talk more about it if there's any particular situation you're talking about, but yeah, the end game is that we have to make the most of whatever situation we have. We can't do anything about the situation. What we can't cure, we have to endure. But that doesn't mean that becomes an excuse for us not to do anything, when it comes to our own spiritual growth. Maybe last one, I think we are on time.
A quick question in the chat.
Check.
Where can we get this presentation? Very well structured set of points.
So this content gets uploaded on the JKO community portal every week, the day after the presentation. I'll send you the link in the chat.
Yes, you can post it to everyone. Thank you for waiting. Keshavji, please go ahead. You have been unmuted.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you. My understanding is that real Guru is one who tells us Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. And why? Because even Kripaluji Maharaj, I have heard him on TV. and other lectures, he said, worship Purushottam Krishna in any form of Krishna, Purushottam Krishna, Bhagwan Krishna. चाहे बच्चे के रूप में, लड्डू गोपाल के रूप में, या whatever form, just worship him and him alone. Even gods are not, can't get salvation. What to talk of these human beings? They are Manushya Lokman. They have, even gods have to come in Manushya and then worship Purushottam Krishna. That's what I heard in very depth, and it is in my head and mind and soul. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Keshav ji. Okay. Are we on time now to wrap up? Please fill out the feedback tracker. Again, it was a fantastic presentation, Cash. You can post the link, and it's a great framework, so nicely presented that you can use, maybe post it on your wall and see, okay, this is how the process will unfold, and I need to work, and the self-effort cannot be undermined at every step if you look at it, right? That's a common running theme there. So very nicely done, and Maharajji will be very happy, I'm sure, you transcribing that in a manner that you did. Are we good then? Or do we want to do some chanting couple of hands? It's already time. Maybe 2 hands we can take and wrap it up there. By the way, tomorrow we have Ram Navami, so it'll be a Ram Navami special. We'll talk about Lord Ram tomorrow, and we'll of course bring in Bhagavad Gita shloka to talk about that topic as well. So that's the session we'll have.
So I
tomorrow.
wanted, like, we do this today because we were talking about Guru and this is about Guru. So
Sure. Let's take 2 hands and then we can wrap it up. I know we are already a minute over, but I think we can afford to do a couple of more minutes. Go ahead.
should I? Or
Yeah, sure.
okay. Sorry. Oh. जग विराग हो तितनोई जितनो ही हरि अनुराग राधे राधे तब हो हरि अनुराग जब गुरु चरणन मन लाग राधे राधे जय राधे कृष्ण राधे 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 कृष्ण राधे. The degree of one's detachment from the world is directly proportional to the intensity of one's attachment to God, and this attachment develops when the mind gets devoted to the lotus feet of the Guru.
Very nice. So very apt doha that has come up. Yes, Aparna ji, real quick.
Go ahead, Aparna ji.
राधे राधे. जग विराग होत तनोई जितनोई हरि अनुराग राधे राधे तब हो हरि अनुराग जब गुरु चरणन मन लाग राधे राधे जय राधे कृष्ण राधे 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 कृष्ण राधे. The degree of one's detachment from the world is directly proportional to the intensity of one's attachment to God, and this attachment develops when the mind gets devoted to the lotus feet of the Guru. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Nice, thank you. I think we have Riya ji, maybe one more hand. I mean, you can just do the doha itself. No need to read. I think we've already done that real quick.
Go ahead, Riya ji.
राधे राधे.
Radhe.
जग विराग हो तितनोई जितनोई हरि अनुराग राधे राधे तब हो हरि अनुराग जब गुरु चरण मन लाग राधे 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 कृष्ण राधे 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 कृष्ण राधे.
Wonderful.
The degrees of one.
Not needed. I think we have done it twice already, so that's good.
Thank you. Radhe
Thank you,
Radhe.
Riya ji. Very nice. So, Swati ji, tomorrow you get the first chance. We are already over time, so we will pick your hand first tomorrow. Like you said, that tomorrow we will do the Ram Navami session, and we'll also, refer to Bhagavad Gita for inspiration. So, Again, thank you so much, and thanks, Cash, for filling in and giving us such a wonderful presentation. So loved thoroughly. And please fill out the feedback tracker and provide your feedback around that. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Radhe Radhe, good night, good day to all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Nitinji and Kashmiraji.
I saw a big hand on the screen. That was Pooja's hand. Thank you, Pooja. Okay, good night, good day, everyone.